Hey there, today I have a combo unboxing and comic book grading video. We're going to open this up, take a look at the one book that's inside here, grade it, and see if it's an upgrade over a book I already have. Stay tuned. Okay, here we go. So as I mentioned, this order that I have here is from Heritage Auctions. It's from around early to mid-September 2021, and I purchased one book from them. I won one auction lot, and it was a very specific book. It's a book that I already own, and what I'm trying to do is figure out if I can play the upgrade game. And what I mean by that is if you have a book that you would certainly prefer to have in a 9.8 or as high a grade as you could possibly afford, is there a way to achieve it without paying top dollar and paying every penny out of your pocket in order to get that high grade copy? And one way that you can do that is by playing the upgrade game, which is figure out what your budget is, figure out where you want to spend your money, and kind of focus on a particular key or grail or any comic or any collectible for that matter, and get it at a price that you can afford and in a condition you can afford, and then start to use that baseline as an opportunity to upgrade it into something that's more presentable, desirable, in a better condition, or whatever that criteria is for you. So we're going to go ahead and unbox this first, and then I'll get into kind of where I'm at with the upgrade process. And hopefully, as we grade the book that's inside here, we'll cross our fingers, but hopefully it's in better shape and better condition than the one I already have. So let's get to the unboxing. All right, here we go. Let's get this unboxed. Again, this is from Heritage Auctions from around mid-September 2021. Box came shipped FedEx. This is the typical sort of packing that they do, that they put together when you win an auction lot. So let's get this open. All right, here we go. Lots of bubble wrap. Feels like it's just like I ordered packing materials from Heritage. Again, not complaining, just being a little sarcastic. Look at all this. Fantastic. I love it. I love this bubble wrap. I'm such a weirdo and I'm a hoarder with packing materials, but have a whole trash bag full of bubble wrap. All right, so we've got a little bit of this brown wrapping packing tape here. Just need to kind of undo this. Okay, finally made it through the tape. Oh, it's one little straggler there. And we're just going to keep unrolling it and unrolling it. And we are out. There it is. Let me get the rest of this bubble wrap out of the way. Okay. Yep. Star Wars #1. Here it is from Heritage. And I purchased this raw because it was listed as very fine. And I took a look at the scans, and from what I could tell, it looked to be a very fine copy. And I was particularly attracted to this specific issue and version of it. I don't know what else to say, but if you've watched my videos, one of the things that I complain about is wrapping, the cover wrapping. And this one in particular, as you can see, and we'll get into the closer scans as we go through the grading of this book together, but this is perfectly wrapped. So I'm such a stickler for the centering and wrapping because I want this slab hanging on my wall. So I would like as vibrant of colors as possible and a book that is wrapped properly. So let me continue with sort of the unwrapping of this book. We'll get it out raw and out of the bag and board, and start to kind of zoom in and dive in on the condition. And I'll talk to you about what I'm looking for here as part of this upgrade. So the first thing I need to do, I know I'm going to sweat all over this book. It is worth a little bit of money, and don't want to perspire all over it. So let me get some gloves, get it out of the bag, and start to work on this book. All right, so what's nice about Heritage 2 is they do try and make sure that during the shipping process, as you saw with the bubble wrap, everything's wrapped properly, but they don't even use there is a backing board, but behind it, this is thick cardboard, like a cardboard panel. So let me get a lot of the wrapping out. Again, if I'm buying this off of eBay, I don't know what they're sending this thing in, so I understand we want to get all of our keys for as cheap as possible and all of that goodness, but there's something to be said about almost guaranteeing that the condition that you buy something in and what you see it in, especially as you're dealing with items online, that someone's taking some pride and some care in getting the book to you in the proper condition. So this, again, pretty cool to kind of have around in case you're selling higher end books and want to have some premium packing material. Okay, so again, this is Star Wars #1. So I have this book graded in a 7.5, and it is an off-white to white pages version. So I already have that, and actually won that from Heritage. And what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to move into the 9s. I'm trying to move up into the 8, 8.5, 9.0 range. And as I get my gloves on, and this book in particular, if, in all honesty, it is a very fine copy with no hesitation on my end of giving it, a very fine designation. That is an 8.0. So sometimes when you're upgrading, it can be a very long process, and I'm putting latex gloves on. Maybe I'm losing my voice, or I'm allergic, but having trouble talking. Anyway, so this is one of those cases where, on paper, no pun intended, I feel like I had to upgrade this maybe a half grade at a time. So as I go through and I grade, that's what I'm trying to keep in mind is this truly an upgrade over the 7.5? If it is not, then I need to figure out, do I want to sell the 7.5? Do I want to get this one graded? Do I want to get it cleaned, pressed? So I'm going to probably be talking about those things, and also just keeping all of that in the back of my mind as far as what is the intent with this process as we go through. So let me get this out of the bag and board. Okay, move this aside. All right, so there it is, and kind of at first glance, it looks pretty good. I mean, it's definitely a high grade. I think what I love about it is the spine here. I don't want to say it looks perfect, but it looks perfect. So when you're grading books of any era, there's usually a few stages that you have to go through. The final stage is, what grade you're going to assign it. But the stages are, what's your first impression of the book? What's the overall, like, high level guess? You have to kind of give yourself a baseline, and it could just be low, mid, above, high in terms of grade. But if you've been doing this a while and you understand comic book grading, everything has kind of a first impression. So a lot of times I can pick up a book and I can look at it and already can tell, like, this is in the 5 to 6 or 5 to 7. You're giving yourself kind of a baseline to work off of. Otherwise, you're you're counting defects, and you're kind of getting into some weirdness, and not every defect is the same, but you give, what is the book's first impression kind of give you. The second one is you're going to check for restoration. The third one is more particular grading, looking for those defects. And then the fourth and final one is assigning it that grade. You have to make that decision. We're all amateur graders unless you're working for CBCS or CGC or another company that's doing this. We're all amateurs here. So we're doing the best we can. But you can't leave something open-ended. You can't say it's in excellent condition. You have to actually grade it and make that decision. And so we're going to do that. So as you watch this video, keep that in mind. What grade are you leaning on? And it can't be high grade. I mean, think of that grade, think of that number, think of that assignment that you're going to put on this book, and would love for you to leave your grade in the comments, because this book may end up at CGC, it may end up for sale, but I would love to know what you think as we go through this. So, first impression, I'm going to very carefully pick this up off the desk. So just take a look at it. Has really nice shine, nice gloss. I don't see really there's just a couple of tiny indentations right here on the cover, so there is that. But the cover looks more or less free from creases. There's not any kind of general creasing. The white lettering in Star Wars looks very crisp and clean. I don't see any dirt there. The corner, there's that. And again, I'll go over this a little bit more slowly, but just kind of, there's that corner there. Just give it that first impression. The back really pops. That's great. In the advertisement, the colors look pretty good. Maybe slightly faded, but not bad. Up there has a little bit of something. We'll get into that. But so what is your first impression? So I feel like we are definitely dealing with something that is, I would say, in the 7 to 9.8 range. Now, is that book a 9.8? No, it's not. But that's kind of where I'm working from. It's definitely a these latex gloves. I'm losing my voice again. It's definitely a high grade book. I don't think there's any doubt that it's a high grade. So that's my first impression. So the second part is do a quick restoration check, because the worst thing that you can do is spend all this money and all this time and then sending it off for grading, and then you get a dreaded green label or something like that. So what do you think, when you're looking at this book, would be a common piece of restoration that somebody might perform? As I look at this, it's going to be the black background of the book that someone would probably take a marker to. And the way that you find that is you simply open up the cover and look to see if there's any bleed, right? So right up there at the, try and get this on camera here. Right up there, there's some discoloration. So I would check the inner cover, but it looks very, very white. But that's just general paper discoloration. But sometimes you can find these ink spots or marker spots, and you'd see it bleed right through there in the cover. But there's nothing in there, so I think we're okay. So I'll just quickly flip through and just make sure that nothing is cut out. Sometimes you get some cutouts here, but looks okay. Everything that has like those lines for cutting things out, it's all intact. And then the second place that you want to check for any sort of restoration would be the staples, to see if they're removed. Those staples look to be originals. You can kind of see, you can kind of tell if they are, just from the experience of looking at the staples, but also some of the little pieces of paper that kind of sit around the staple, kind of hug the staple. And if you get a super bright, shiny staple, maybe question that. There has to be a little bit of age that is sitting there on the staple. So from a restoration perspective, I feel like this is an original. I don't believe it's been tampered with in any way. All right, so now into the details of the grading. So from a first impression standpoint, I do feel like we're probably dealing with like a 7, and again, I said 7 to 9.8, probably 7 to 9.4 realistically. So we're talking about a fine, very fine copy all the way up to near mint. The 7.5 that I have is a very fine minus, so I'm hoping that this ends up a little bit higher than that. I do have a good feeling, just based on the first impression, that it has that chance. So, diving into some of the details that I saw during the first impression, up here at the top is definitely a little bit of a problem area. We have right here above the Wars and Star Wars, there's some chipping there that is, I mean, it's color breaking because it's white. It's over the space black portion. Right up here as well, there's some softening on that corner. It's really not bad though, but that probably needs to be pressed out at the top. There's a little bit of a dent here, so there's a really good look against the light of what I'm dealing with. A little bit of waviness, a little bit of a chip up there. But as I said, the spine, let's go and look at this a little bit. So staple is moved up just slightly, above the spine on the front cover, but not much. We're talking about millimeters here. But look at this spine. Gorgeous. Really, really great. No problems there on the spine at all. I mean, at worst, maybe a little, I'm being really, really picky. Right here by my thumb has just a tiny hairline. And it's just a touch color breaking, but I'm being super picky on the spine. I'm looking for things. So it looks really, really good there. I will say down here near the barcode, that is right. Again, you may not be able to see it here, but trying to get it right in the light. There is a hairline. It's not coming up on the camera, but there's a little bit of an issue there. And then down here at the bottom corner, you saw this during the first impressions. That's definitely something right there. So impact, corner crunch, whatever you want to call it. It's color breaking. It's nasty. And it is what it is. So it's like the book was dropped right on the corner and smashed. The bottom edge, super clean, super crispy, no issues there. That corner probably needs to have some humidity and pressing, a little bit of waviness, but really not bad. And then if we turn the book, looking at this outer edge, again, a better look at that corner. A little bit of something there. It's just a little bit of lifting, I would say, right in there. Hard to tell, but yeah, right there. I would say normal, like edge curling for this age, but honestly, this edge is better than my ASM 300. Looking at it in the slab, the ASM 300 I have that's a 9.6 looks like some sort of little tiny animal chewed all the way up and down the outer edge. So I'm pretty pleased with this so far. So those are the defects that I found on the front. Mainly some pressing, or just some smoothing out at the top that needs to happen. And again, I'm not talking about pressing this book. I'm talking about issues that I would see that are, I would say, a way to improve the book further. There's not much you can do with that corner. That corner is going to prevent this book from being a 9.8 all day long. On the back, though, there's really, I don't see color rub, no signs of like excessive dirt. Right up here, I don't quite know what that is, if that's color rub. I'm talking about right here at the top. It's very minor, but there's something on it. Again, could be dirt. A little bit of dirt up and down the spine here. Just, I would say, typical or normal, but really not bad. Again, the edge has what I would say to be the normal, sort of tiny chipping or insect or animal biting I don't know what the technical grading term is for that, but just those little tiny, tiny notches that kind of are up and down there. Okay, so I've gone through and looked at a lot of the defects. I kind of am starting to put an idea in my head as far as what I would grade this book as. So kind of the way that I do this is I take that first impression and I give myself that range. And I look at the 7 to 9.4 to 9.8 sort of range. But the reason I said 7 to 9.8 is if I do feel... I'm going to take these gloves off. If I do feel that the book is in high grade, I have to give it a chance to be a 9.8. I can't always rule it out or assume that it's not going to be. So for me, working backwards on this book from a 9.8, I'm definitely looking at this corner down here as the problem area. And if I get a modern that has, been dropped or something has happened during transit and it has that nasty, just the corner crunch, just like I said, looks like it's been dropped right on the corner. I kind of drop it already to the 8.5 to 9.2 range just based on that corner. Now, I don't think that corner is as severe as, think about like a cardstock modern that has a corner problem with a bend and a dent. Like you had to like slam it onto your desk in order to recreate that. There's something about it with the material that is so inflexible so that if it had to be damaged that severely, I feel like the grade is more impacted by that. Whereas this being a newspaper-based comic, it's almost like it's impacted, but there's some flexibility in the paper fiber. So it's possible that a press and clean could help relax that or smooth it out. But if you're not going to press it, it's not... There's not a... It's hard to describe, but there's not as much force that's been, pun intended, I guess, that has been placed on the book that would maybe detract from it. And I think that that's what I'm trying to think about in my head, is if I have a brand new modern cardstock that has that bottom corner, it's detracting from the expectation of the book and the book's grade for me. Whereas that is not. It's not that severe of an impact. So I don't want to drop it down into the 8.5 just on that corner. But it's definitely coming down off the 9.8. Absolutely, there's no question asked. I would still maybe put it in the 9.2 to 9.4. And again, being conservative, you'd rather undergrade. So if you're kind of wavering between two grades, you have to take the dollar signs out of your head and take all the emotion out. And just think about being honest with yourself and what you would do with this book, because you'd hate to invest a lot in pressing and cleaning and grading and all of this stuff with your fingers crossed. Boy, I really hope this gets the higher end of the grade that I thought. So with all that, I'm going to start at a 9.2. So in my opinion, looking at the most significant defect, and that's kind of where when you have a lot of little things, you have to figure out what is the major detractor from this being a 9.8. And for me, it's that bottom corner. We looked at it. It's not pretty. It's color breaking. You can see it right here, even zoomed out. I'll zoom in a little bit more here so you can see. There you go. It is what it is. It's, again, on a comic book with a black cover. It's not bad, but just to be fair, I'm going to say 9.2. Now, that's the most significant defect. There's the spine on this is gorgeous. I'm actually quite surprised. I was more focused on the wrapping, but I'm excited to have this specific copy. Like, almost like I think in my mind, I when I was looking at it, I made up my mind. This is going to be pressed, cleaned, and sent to CGC. Like, I'm not going to do the whole thing. Like, I think this is less than a 7.5, so maybe I sell one and all that stuff. To me, this is really a beautiful copy for me personally. with the spine being, I mean, just look in here. This is just, there's nothing. There's a couple of hairline, minuscule, and I counted 3 tops in the spine, which that's allowable. So the spine itself would give this book, I'd give this book a 9.8. But the corner being what it is, as we talked about. Now, the other issue that I see is up here, and there's a little bit of wrinkling and everything like that. Now, does that move this from a 9.2 to a 9.0? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think on its own it does. I honestly don't. I don't think it moves it too far. And I'm talking about this issue up here, a little bit of softening on the corner. But the other thing is, remember too, when we were looking up here, there was a couple of little bit of, a couple of really, really, again, we're talking millimeters here, a couple of little dents up in here that, again, a press would just smooth those out. And if you're a grader and you're counting those and you're like, I see 3 or 4 dents, so I'm pulling it back from a 9.2 and dropping it to a 9 based on all of that. So again, a press would smooth that out. But if I am counting, I do think I have to pull it down to a 9 because of what's going on up here. On the back, we looked at a little bit of either, I don't know if it's dirt or something, some sort of grime, color rub, or what have you. I think it's minor. I don't really think it's that much of a detractor. I think that I think it's still within the reasonable range of an 8.5 to a 9.4 in terms of the back of the book. The other thing you'll notice here that we covered is down here in this corner. There's a little bit of that chipping right there and a little bit of softening right there. But the fact that the edge looks really, really great, it's intact. The bottom is super, super sharp. And the top also, once we get into the Marvel Comics Group logo, from this point on, super sharp. These corners are also crispy as well. So, what do you think? We're at that final stage where we have to make a decision. I've kind of provided some input along the way. I've given you some my ideas for ranges and grades. What are you thinking right now? Are you thinking that I really want this upgrade bad enough and I'm overgrading it? Do you feel like I'm being too picky? What is that range? What do you think? And I'll give you my final decision here on what I think it is. But leave a comment on this video. Tell me what you thought at this point. You went through the process with me. We looked at everything. I think it's going to get a blue label. I think it is white pages or off-white at worst. It's certainly not anything beyond that. I think the coloring looks great. I don't think it looks faded at all. So I think it's a really eye-popping copy of Star Wars #1. So what do you think? I think it's a 9.0. I think that we're dealing with a very fine near mint VFNM copy of Star Wars #1. So I think that this was undergraded by Heritage. I truly believe this is a 9.0. And I'm talking about as is. I feel like there's a possibility that with some professional cleaning and grading, I honestly think that this could get at least a 9.2, possibly even slip into the 9.4 if all of the issues up here at the top are completely gone and taken care of. The only thing left on this book is this corner. And this is the judgment call that you'd have to make to say, is that corner, for the age and era of this book, or keeping all things relative and equal, is that enough to drop it, under VFNM, below a 9.0? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that's a pretty fair range of improvement, and I would be very happy to have this increased and improved up into that 9.2 range. But one of the things when you're grading is you don't want to be distracted or influenced by pressing and say, well, I could clean this up, so therefore it is a 9.4. You have to be honest with what you have. And I believe that this copy that I got from Heritage, as is, if I send it to CGC and have it come back, is a 9.0. So to me, this is an upgrade. And then what I'm going to do is I'll figure out if I'm going to get it pressed and clean, who's going to do it. I don't think I trust myself to do it with this sort of collectible myself, but I'll let you know what I do. I'm gonna send it somewhere, I know that, and get it addressed, and then get it back from CGC. And then when I do, I'm going to try and sell the 7.5. And hopefully through that upgrade process, I will have a higher grade copy of Star Wars #1. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of the grading journey, the grading phase of this upgrade process. And I will keep you updated with the progress as we go through it. It may take a while, and you got to have patience. Again, comic books, it's a long game. I know there's a lot of flipping involved, but if you really want it to pay off, you got to stick with it for the long run. Especially a book like this. This is an important book to me as a Star Wars fan, as a collector who wanted Star Wars comics as a kid, but never got a hold of them, especially missed out on Star Wars #1. So I want to take my time, be careful with it, and make sure that I'm trying to get the highest grade copy I can. So thank you for watching, appreciate it, happy collecting, and see you next time.